good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from news about Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Also live on YouTube at 3FM 927. I am Alfred Ocansey.
I am Chrisabel, Success Trevor.
This evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Matters arising right now after Interior Minister vows a crackdown on vigilante groups as he directs IGP to investigate and apprehend thugs that caused mayhem during the Ablekuma North rerun vote. We will tell you exactly what the Interior Minister has been talking about later. Stay with us. Also, government appeals to Boko stakeholders to support peace initiative as tensions escalate over alleged military brutalities in the area. Former President John Agyekum Kufuor laments what he describes as his marginalization within the New Patriotic Party. We have details plus the very latest on the party's National Delegates Conference slated for this weekend. Stay with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 and on W93.5. Also, we're learning that over 500 personnel have been removed from security services after recruitment audit. Stay with us. We've got details for you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Latest in the next 1 hour, business and sports coming up shortly. Let's settle for a summary of the news. Chrisabel.
Thank you very much, Alfred. And in our summaries, Interior Minister Muntaka Mubarak has disclosed that a total of 1,192 kilograms of cocaine, 90 kilograms of cannabis, and 17.9 kilograms of gold bars were intercepted at various entry and exit points across the country as of June 2025. According to him, the seizures were made by the Narcotics Control Commission at 4 major locations: Tema Port, Kotoka International Airport, the Paga border, and Oyarifa. Also, more than 500 individuals have been removed from Ghana Security Services following a government review that uncovered irregularities in recruitment processes conducted before and after the December 2024 general election. The announcement was made by the Minister for the Interior, Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak, on Monday, July 14, 2025, during the maiden edition of the Government Accountability Series in Accra. In other stories, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, has raised serious concerns over the conduct of political parties and security agencies during the Ablekuma North constituency election rerun held on Friday, July 11, 2025. In a statement issued on Monday, July 14, and signed by Joseph Otifrimpon, coordinator at the CODEO Secretariat, the coalition condemned the violence that disrupted the electoral process and criticized the use of incendiary and provocative language by key figures of both the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party in the aftermath. Finally, Canadian police have issued a warrant for the arrest of a 17-year-old suspect in connection with a brazen shooting that claimed the life of a Ghanaian woman and injured a man in downtown Hamilton. In a statement released on Sunday, the Hamilton Police Service identified the suspect as Makali Lavoi. He is wanted for second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder in relation to the incident, which occurred on Friday, July 11 at approximately 5:25 p.m. But we have this and a lot more stories on 3news.com. Make time to visit that site. Over to you, Alfred.
And stay with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's get straight into the stories right now. The Interior Minister, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, has vowed to take firm action against the perpetrators of the chaos and violence that marred the Ablekuma North election rerun. The minister emphasized the John Dramani Mahama-led administration will not tolerate acts of vigilantism by any group, including from members of the National Democratic Congress in D.C. His remarks follow violent disruptions at the St. Peter's Society Methodist Church polling center, where police allegedly stood by as unidentified men stormed the venue, assaulted assaulted individuals, including former Ewutu East Member of Parliament Mavis Ocansey and MPP Deputy National Organizer Chris Lloyd Asama, and disrupted voting process. Speaking at the maiden government accountability series at the Jubilee House, Muntaka Mubarak condemned the incident and assured that those responsible would face justice. He revealed that the Inspector General of Police has been directed to investigate the chaos and prosecute the perpetrators, with video evidence already submitted for review. Take a listen to the minister earlier today at the Jubilee House.
All of us needs to be mindful about the activities of vigilantism, and I can assure you that not my party, not any group will we sit and allow to see the resurgence of vigilantism. I have spoken to the IGP family on all the happenings of Ablekomanov. The videos have been forwarded to him, who've instructed him to act swiftly, bring the perpetrators to book. We are not going to condone whether people within our party or outside our party into going around doing anything untoward. We can assure the public that we will ensure, under the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, no such group will be allowed to form.
As Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak there. Now, the minister also disclosed that he personally reached out to Hawa Kumsin to express sympathy and urge her full cooperation with the police investigations. He also vowed to pursue the group that meted out this chaos and that particular altercation at that polling station on Friday. Take a listen to him.
These are guys who commit this sin and they vanish from the system, but we have to take time to track them. But assurance is that we are not going to allow this to go unpunished. Unless they flee the country. So long as they are around, they should be rest assured. The law will have to take its course, because we cannot allow this to happen in our country. And you can be rest assured that, and I trust in the professionalism of the IGP and his team, that they are going to do a good job. So be rest assured that will be done.
As Interior Minister Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak there, let's say a bit further on the minister. He also disclosed that he, meanwhile, getting some information that CODEO, that's a coalition of domestic election observers, they have raised alarm over the conduct of security personnel during the July 11 rerun, calling it a clear and present danger to Ghana's democracy. Unauthorized individuals suspected to be political vigilantes moved freely around polling centers, some in unlicensed vehicles, creating an atmosphere of intimidation. CODEO noted the situation was especially troubling, given the election's high stakes and urban setting, echoing similar concerns during the 2024 general elections. Now, in a strongly worded statement, CODEO condemned the police's failure to protect voters and officials despite heavy deployment, urging President Mahama and the Police Council to invoke Article 2022 of the 1992 Constitution to enforce immediate reforms ahead of the Akwatia election. That's the by-election ahead of us. Now, the coalition also called on political parties, the Electoral Commission and the judiciary to confront election violence and vigilantism head-on, warning that inaction could erode public trust and destabilize future elections. That's what's coming from CODEO here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. This is a particular development which we're monitoring quite closely, but Dr. Ishmael Norman, who's a security analyst, had this to say about the happenings in Ablekuma North, his recommendation on what has to be done going forward to ensure that this does not repeat itself again. He spoke on key point. Take a listen to him.
And they should have declared that area a hotspot, which is a designation they do very well when it comes to crime.
Yeah.
But they should begin to designate polling station areas in the country as hotspot. I think that the preparedness was poor. They have to always think about the worst case scenario, which they did in Alfred. And I believe that if IG Yono needs help, I am available. There are a number of people that can also help, especially when we are going into a situation with potential for crisis. I believe that knocking down Honorable Ocansey was not the right thing to do, even though some people rejoice at that. Every human being, every Ghanaian has a right to be free from fear and violence. And she is one of those Ghanaians, one of those human beings who is entitled to feel, to have freedom from fear, freedom from violence. The reaction of the police is what I don't like. It looked like there was no esprit de corps. Some of the policemen and women were standing in a detached mode, as if they were not on duty. For me, if you are on duty as a police officer, as a soldier, as a security person, and your colleague is attacking a situation, you should give the backup and not stand there and raise your hand and as if you don't know what is happening. So for me, for IGP, you got the media coverage, they should analyze each clip by clip, and identify the police officers who were sort of detached from what was happening, and also prosecute the person who actually did the knocking. Hitting a woman in the pelvic area, she's somebody who is probably menopausal at the age that she is. That creates complications for her. And I'm happy that they took her to the hospital. And I don't know who will be responsible for the cost of it, because when you organize a public event and there is injury, Lawyer Pego is here and he will ascertain that the organizer is ultimately responsible for the cost of injury to the people that attend that event. And the government now is exposed in that area because of the negligence of the Ghana police in reacting. When the truck moved in with those young men, they should have stopped them at the gate. When Honorable Ocansey went there the first time, we have to stop this nonsense about big man, big woman syndrome. She had no duty to go there. And she came the second time. What was she going to do?
You say she had no duty. We don't know the strategy that the candidate deployed. I say this because the party boycotted, but the candidate decided to contest. So was she there at the invitation of the candidate?
This is not a time to visit the candidate, Alfred.
We'll have to ask.
Election day does not allow campaigning. We don't allow campaigning on election day, especially at a polling station. So what are you doing there? For me, I think the visit was unnecessary. The visit of all the party officials on both sides was totally unnecessary, because it brings down the maturity of our democracy. I can't speak too well to that because Professor Gambo is here and I know he will address that. Because if you want to have a mature democracy, you can't have government officials, party echelon going to polling stations on election day. What were they all doing? I blame the IGP and his men for this, because if that altercation had not happened, nobody would have gone there. Because they went there maybe to help to solve the problem, but the event should not have happened. They should have created barriers. If you are not voting, you are not allowed to go beyond this barrier. And that would have contained any kind of suspicious activity, because the public, the NDC supporters were afraid that, knowing her history, she was probably there to maybe do some finagling, and they didn't want to see that. Spraying the people with pepper spray wasn't correct, because pepper spray is a weapon. Some people are allergic to pepper, and if you put it in their eye, they could end up dying.
That's Dr. Ishmael Norman. He is a lecturer at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. Also, a security analyst joining us with his thoughts on the happenings in the Ablekuma North rerun of the 19 polling stations and the chaos that we saw characterize some 3 polling stations during that election on Friday. We'll come back to this story in a bit here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Now, let's stay the steam on matters of security because Interior Minister Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak has appealed to all stakeholders in the Boko conflict to assist government find a lasting solution to the crisis. His call comes as the military reportedly brutalized residents on Sunday, July 12. The military action targeted at containing renewed tension reportedly led to casualties. The move by the military is said to be a reprisal after a team of armed men attacked the military convoy that was escorting some travelers through the Boko township, injuring at least 2 personnel. The Minister for Defense, Dr. Edward Amanibwama, has in a statement directed security agencies to conduct a full investigation into the incident while urging calm. The majority leader and Boko Central Member of Parliament, Mama Yariga, has meanwhile condemned the military, describing it as unacceptable the conduct of the personnel, including vandalizing a cultural monument in the area. That's the troubling situation as it's unfolding in Boko right now. And Colonel Festus Obwaji, retired as a security consultant. He has been monitoring the happenings in the Boko quite closely. He's joining us on the telephone right now. Colonel, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Now, I mean, this situation of the military and the reports of they then clashing with civilians and also some of them even leading to the death of civilians, some left with injuries. It's becoming one too many, is it not? And how concerning is this, especially because of the volatility of the situation in Boko as we speak?
Well, I think if you want to have a structured debate about Boko conflict generally and the development since early this morning or last night, we need to place the situation in context. The information that I have is that as part of their routine security duties, the military task force was conducting convoy escort duties, one from Bolga to Boku, and I think from Boku back to Bolga or something like that. So this was not a situation where the military was on patrols, for instance, within the community. Now, because they were escorting, allegedly, Mamprosis, the attack on the convoy, and I think the casualties speak to that, that 2 military were injured, one was shot in the leg, one was shot somewhere, and then I think some civilians also. The attack on the convoy becomes an attack on the military that is providing the escort. So that is the context for what happened. It is not that the military just got up and ran amok in the community. And as we always say, when you deploy the military and when the military comes under fire, instinctively they return fire. You can call it civilian parlance, fire for fire. Military comes under fire and they don't run. So whoever attacked the convoy, and the evidence is that they also attacked the military in a way was justified to some extent, and I'll come to that shortly, to return fire. So the rules of engagement would permit the military to return fire. But the whole story is that it looks like the military then escalated this initial exchange, including destroying the effigy or statue or some kind of cultural, symbol of the Kusasi. And then going into the community, I think some technical school or so has also been mentioned. So in a way, therefore, the rules of engagement would have exceeded what would normally be permissible. The understanding is that The armed forces is not enrolled to conduct classical military operations in a democracy internally. When they do that, they are being given powers to assist, call it the civilian authority or civil authority, sorry. So it's military assistance to civil authority to control the situation in and around Boko. I don't think anybody should, in the first instance, blame the military. Although the military has to admit that it also exceeded the limits or the threshold of the force that it was allowed or was permissible to be used. So going forward, all of us need to understand that the military has been deployed under legal authority to go and assist the government to control the situation in Boko. An attack on the military is an attack on the state. Whether it is, designed to attack Mamprusis or Kusasis, as long as the military is present doing protection duties, and by extension the police, an attack on them becomes an attack on the state. And if it had been the police, per their rules of engagement, they call it directives on the use of force. They would have returned fire in a way. But part of this debate is that any time such force is used, there must be an investigation. Indeed, strictly speaking, there must be a justification before a court of law why anybody in command of that unit or group of soldiers thought that it was necessary under the circumstances to use that degree of force. See, the overall commander of this task force, this Operation Maidaburi, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was not even in Boku. He was on leave, on pass, as we call it, for 7 days. He had only spent about 3 days or 4 days. And then when this thing broke out, he had to be quickly, ordered to return. At the time that I spoke with him, sometime early in the morning, he was in Tamale because the armored vehicles that brought the injured soldiers to the hospital at Tamale were going to take him back to Boku. But I'm not saying that in his absence there was no command and control because he has a deputy.
But it's a very comprehensive analysis of how things are played out. And maybe very quickly, this is happening when there's a mediation effort led by Otumfuo Osei to the second. How should all of this also feature in the conversation and the mediation led by Otumfuo Osei to the second to bring lasting peace into Boko as we speak? Briefly.
I think it's a good question. You see, resolving an inter-ethnic, internecine conflict of this nature requires multiple approaches. In this instance, we have the security approach, which involves deploying a task force, military police task force, to go and perform certain, functions, security functions, in order to bring the conflict or try to de-escalate the level of the violence. Then you have the mediation proper, which in this case is being led by the Asantehene. Although I do not expect that every day, every week, the Asantehene's office or the whoever speaking for the mediation team every day must come and tell Ghanaians what is going on. But on the other side, or on the other hand, this silence, as I remarked on social media today, is not helping, the process of calming down nerves. Since the parties came to Menchia, should we say a month or so ago, and the media even misreported what the real outcome was, we have not heard anything. So in the minds of the people who are in conflict, they think that nobody is interested in the conflict. And that the only thing the state wants to do is to deploy soldiers to kill them. Do you get the idea?
Yes, I do.
So there must be some interface between the two tracks where there is periodic updates on how the peace process is going, what the challenges are, where progress has been made, in order to, get Ghanaians to, especially the parties in the conflict, to support the mediation effort. I cannot lay down rules, but I think that the authorities must engage with the mediation team, i.e. the Asantehene office, and see how best, whether it is the government spokesperson who will take the information and come and announce it, or whether it will be joint, the spokesperson for the Asantehene and the government spokesperson together on a platform, in whichever way. We're all interested in how much progress has been made. What are the difficulties that are impeding the return to peace? I hope you understand where I'm going
yes,
from,
I do.
Where I'm coming
yes.
from. Then we need to hear the NCC and the National Peace Council doing their normal statutory outreach. So you listen to the media, if you take TV3, with all due respect to you, you see a lot of entertainment. Every media house has its own agenda. What you don't see across all the media channels is what is going on with regards to the resolution of conflicts, especially the Boku one. And that is an imbalance. Because media information, public information, is part of the campaign, if you like, to resolve the conflict.
Right. We'll see how the coming days will look like. And I do appreciate your thoughts as always, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Colonel Festus Sabaje is a security consultant and also joining us with his thoughts on this. But let's get into the statement from the Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Amaneboma. Christopher.
Well, it says, I condemn in no uncertain terms the unacceptable act of destruction of the statue of the Zugran of the Kuswak traditional area by some military personnel. I demand an immediate investigation by the senior hierarchy of the military. In the same vein, I also condemn the brutality of the military yesterday, 13 July 2025. The violent gun attack by unknown youth on the vehicle escorted by soldiers is equally condemned, and further attacks must cease. I, however, appeal to the Kusasi's youth to calm down as government takes urgent steps to investigate the infiltrations into the ranks of the military by elements who seek to politicize and further destabilize the situation in Boku. My condolences to the families of the bereaved and those who have suffered military brutalities as a result of yesterday's unfortunate and deadly incident, and it was signed 14 July 2025.
Well, let's go to our earlier story where the Interior Minister Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak has vowed to take firm action against the perpetrators of the chaos and violence that marred the Ablekuma North election rerun. The minister emphasized that the John Mahama-led administration will not tolerate acts of vigilantism by any group, including from the members of the NDC. Take a listen to him at the first edition of the accountability sessions that's at the Jubilee House earlier today.
These are guys who commit this sin and they vanish from the system, but we have to take time to track them. But assurance is that we are not going to allow this to go unpunished. Unless they flee the country. So long as they are around, they should be rest assured. The law will have to take its course, because we cannot allow this to happen in our country. And you can be rest assured that, and I trust in the professionalism of the IGP and his team, that they are going to do a good job. So be rest assured that will be done.
As Interior Minister Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak, let's go onto the telephone now, and Richard Komado is a security and fraud consultant. It's joining us on the telephone right now to get an understanding of his view of how things played out in Ablekuma North, the aftermath of it, and hearing the minister talk right now. Thank you, Mr. Kumalo, for your time.
You're welcome, Nene.
Now, hearing the minister indicate a pursuit of these persons. Now, this is not the first time we've heard this commitment from a minister. What should be done differently? Because he acknowledges that, yes, indeed, these people show up, they cause this violence, chaos, and then they vanish. Nothing is done. So what has to be done this time around going forward?
Definitely, I agree that we need to hold him accountable for whatever he says. What we can do predominantly is that the next time Attorney General holds a press conference, and this case did not make it to the press conference, we will need to find space and ask him the outcome of the investigation. Or anytime the CID boss hold a press conference, and this particular case did not make it, we need to find space and access, and I think that update will also help. Other than that, what the police will do in terms of public opinion or public engagement is to make a statement that the people have been arrested or they are investigating it, and the rest, whether they are doing it or not, it may not come to the general public. So that is one. Number two, is very assuring that they've taken cognizance of the fact that there's an issue and there's a need to work at it and make sure that perpetrators are brought to book. The state itself brings problems onto herself because the state lacks the courage and ability to prosecute crime. And people flood the laws and get away with it. So it rationalizes bad behavior and promotes antisocial tendency in society. And one of such is what we witnessed on Friday at Ablekumanov.
I see. But then again, we're saying the continuous calls now for some action to be taken. Let's assume that these persons, if they are arrested or identified, happen to affiliate themselves with a particular political party. I mean, we've had instances where continuously people, after Ablekuma North on Friday, people reference what's happened in Ayawaso West Wuogon, where a commission of inquiry was established, recommendations were made. All the recommendations were not implemented. In fact, over 70% of the recommendations were not implemented, leading to this continuous occurrence of the violence during elections. So how do we ensure that both past, present, and instances of chaos and violence is punished so that it will serve as a deterrent for future elections?
And the good thing is that we are investigators. We are law enforcement officers. We are not politicians, and we will never be one, and we don't want to be one. We don't have the courage of being one. So what we do is to prosecute crime, irrespective of whoever committed a crime, whether it's an NDC, an MPP. Once a crime is committed, it needs to be investigated and prosecuted. There has to be some level of discipline or punitive action. Even if people know that the particular crime you have committed, these are the sanctioning regimes, and this is the punishment, and you even let them go free. It's enough a deterrence for them and others to look at it and may not do the same thing. The state largely do not want to prosecute crime, and they are politicians, they lie through their teeth. And that is the unfortunate thing that bothers me in this country. But let's hope that this time around, perpetrators will be arrested, irrespective of whoever they are. And Alfred, guess what? You know, in every election, the police have a role to play, and the politicians have a responsibility to discharge. All of us who vote together with the Electoral Commission, we have a function to undertake. Usually, it is the politicians who bastardize the place and create problems for the state and create issues when it comes to elections. Why is nobody talking about the politicians in this particular equation? Why is nobody saying that go after the politicians who might have engineered this or benefit from this partially or fully or actively or whatever? Nobody is talking about that. And that has been a negative attitude we've had in this country for many years. That we always look left instead of looking right, and we blame somebody else apart from ourselves. And I think that attitude will need to change. All elections we have in this country and the troubles that associated with it, yes, law enforcement lapses, but predominantly it has been politicians who bastardize the place with their negative attitude, and that must be changed.
Now, how about the proposal for a review of the election security strategy, so as to then respond to the changing trends and the evolution of election-related crime, essentially?
I agree perfectly. But Alfred, you know me already. I lead crusades. I lead activism, and I lead all manner of things to change things in this country. If I know exactly what they are talking about, we will change it. What I heard that made me afraid is that people were saying that the police has no AK-47. We want soldiers to come. If the soldiers come and kill somebody, the conversation would have changed. If the police should bring the striking force, the Buffalo unit, the counter-terrorism unit, and the SWAT unit, there would have been problem. And you remember one of the charges against Dan Parry was people speak in this country and spoke vehemently that he should not release the SWAT team into the 2024 election. You remember that story? Yeah. People know that these guys are trained as commandos and special forces, and they will kill. If they come, they will not tolerate this bad behavior by politicians. And if they take the law into their own hands, politicians take the law. These guys will respond swiftly, and it may lead to casualties. We will be the same people who will be blaming them, and everybody will leave the negative attitude of the politicians. So if we want the structure to change, fine, I don't have a problem. But Dan Parry insisted that let the police take charge. And the police took charge in the 2024 elections, except some few places you have soldiers here and there. But predominantly, the police took charge. And I think we can do better when all of us knows that we have a responsibility and a duty. Why should a politician always take the law into their own hands, blame everybody, and they will not blame themselves, and they will not they will not be held accountable, and they will not take responsibility? That is a bad thing to do. And in a democracy where rule of law is key and accountability is key, if you allow these guys to continue behaving the way they do, Alfred, no matter what you do, they will create problems.
I do appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much. And Richard Kumaktor is a security consultant joining us with his thoughts on the Ablikuma North and its aftermath. Let's go, still stay on the matters of security, go back to Boko, because there's a statement that's just come through from the West African Network for Peace Building. What does it say?
Well, they are saying that the Boko conflict has been politicized. The comment follows similar one by the Member of Parliament for Boko Central and Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga, who has asked for a review of the men sent to help coil the flame of the conflict there. Head of Monitoring and Evaluation, Dr. Vincent Azuma, believes the military does not seem well prepared for the area. He spoke earlier on the Midday News.
Well, this news comes as another surprise. Surprise because I was thinking we could be doing things differently, but it looks like we continue committing same errors, and so we will not get different answers, but same attacks, and then military brutality on civilians. So that is why I say I'm surprised.
I'm just wondering why of course, I get your element in terms of explanation of surprise, but could this not be...
Boko conflict should be known by everybody now that it is very complex. So if we are sending the military to the ground, we need to send people who understand the conflict and who understand how to handle such complex conflict situations. We also need to have the military who can gather intelligence. So it is not just a military roaming the towns or the streets to keep calm. No, this must be a well-trained military team that understands the context of this conflict, that knows the importance of the cooperation of the youth and the people of Baku. And so work in collaboration with the people and not in a process where when they are attacked, they go and attack, brutalize citizens, some innocent, destroy property and all. So this should be different. That way of keeping peace in Baku must be changed. That's not what we think should happen in Baku now.
So in your view, you think that the soldiers who have been sent there perhaps are not trained in...
That's the West African Network for Peace Building, 1M. Let's now shift into matters of politics. And the former president John Jacob Kufuor has been talking about the new Patriotic Party. What has he been saying?
He's expressing disappointment over what considers as his marginalization within the new Patriotic Party, NPP. Speaking during a courtesy call on him by the Abetifi MP and MPP flag bearer hopeful Brian Achampong, the former head of state said that despite his decades of service and leadership to the NPP, he has been sidelined from key decision-making process within the party. Let's take a listen to him. We'll bring you that later in our subsequent bulletins. The former President Kufuor's comment comes some days to the party's National Delegates Conference slated for Saturday, July 19, just so you know. Meanwhile, the new Patriotic Party has unveiled a theme for the upcoming 2025 National Delegates Conference slated for July 19. That's this coming Saturday. The event, which is on the theme Rebuilding Together with Our Values, will consider key amendments to the party's constitution, including proposals from the 2019 Delegates Conference in Kumasi and recommendations from the Professor Mike Okwe Committee reports. Speaking at the unveiling ceremony in Accra, the party's Director of Communications, Richard Ahiadba, said the theme captures the NPP's renewed focus on unity, reflection and reform as it seeks to restructure its internal machinery and position itself strategically for the 2028 general elections.
Value this theme that we are committing ourselves to, trying to prioritize our value and reconnect with our roots would get us there. It's an indication to Ghanaians that we hear you, that all the feedback that we're given when we're in government, we hear you. On that matter of limited government, we hear you. We're also known as a party that promotes and defends the traditional and cultural values of our country, including the rather obnoxious LGBTQ phenomenon that the NDC as a party that believes in democracy and good governance. These are values that we are going to be led by. These are the values that you have known us to be associated with, that you have associated with us. And these are the values that, coming from conference, we are going to be prioritizing and leading our rebuilding back to the hearts of our people.
Richard Ahiaba, who is the Director of Communications of the new Patriotic Party. Over to you, Alfred.
Let's go back to that John Jacob Kufuor concern that he raised about being neglected by the party. Says that he's not too old to be ignored. He's sacrificed for the MPP. He wants to be recognized as such.
To the point, sir. I will graph you at the additional and I uses you, the state, and think at least. I am Mamma TV. No matter about comparison, we are near me being on stage. Niago Dronana, Namanya party me. I think I met me to a name with him. So, Ghana political party, political history. I can't say UGCC, but if 47, but 69 was there. Time, nearly power for Ghana. 2 years, 3 months, was there time. Me, 69, maybe 30 years, and be a member of parliament, be a founding member of Progress Party. 2 years, 3 months, Buzi, I am deputy foreign minister. I jump on 2 years, them sick. The team and number Asha Fort prison with them 1 year, 3 months. Something that did there cause room behind another detention. But I know I did build a year. From 72 January, I jump on 2 years side, the tradition. There are more power beyond that till 2001. Me, I'm a creating departing by power. 2 terms. Ghana, didn't see. And then, the baby say, a young woman, a prepare woman. Na baby said, Becona, and Yada, Mamma, your bag no me cry. Mentia
That's the former president, John Ejiokum Kufuor there. This is not the only thing that he said. He continuously raised concerns about what he says is the party's internal politics, for which he has been sidelined and tagged in that regard. If you recall, this comes on the heels of the statement that he made during the party's official launch of the Patriotic Institute some 2 weeks ago.
The first Ghanaian professor in Legon, in sociology, everything. But it wasn't just the knowledge. Nor was it just the dislike of President Nkrumah or Prime Minister Nkrumah in those times. No. President Nkrumah was talking ideologies that were not founded in our culture.
Well, so that's John Ejiokum Kufuor now, Professor. We'll go back onto the telephone right now, and unfortunately, we'll try to reconnect with a political analyst who is at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, joining us on the telephone for a quick conversation on this one here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're also live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Now, let's get onto the telephone now, and we'll have Professor Samuel Edudjemfi, who's a political scientist and a lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, joining us on the telephone. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks for having me, my brother.
Now, find out from you, first of all, what you make of this public concern by John Ejiokum Kufuor. I mean, he's been quiet for quite a while now, and then now hearing him lament about being neglected and sidelined by the party that he says part of the founders of the NPP.
Yes, it's a critical question. If you look at it, it's rather better for the good men of the party to come out and say what they need to say than to allow some few bad people to hijack the party to do their personal bidding and business. Fundamentally, I think that he draws our attention back to history, which most Ghanaians try to overlook because they think that it lies within the realm of the archive or it is within the domain of anachronism. But fundamentally, he draws our attention to institutional memory. He himself, as a working institution of the party, he shares what he's been through, his knowledge of the party from 1947. If I'm not mistaken, then it's spanning about 8 years plus. In that regard, the party is older in terms of its existence than several members who are part of it. And again, even potentially and possibly the leading members of the party today. The party is older than them. But the party itself as an institution is also bigger than these actors therein. But it is these actors who have also acted in the past and have played a significant role, including former President Kufuor himself, who are able to use their institutional knowledge to help shape the present situations and to even shape future outcomes. It is the same individuals who have been pushed to the periphery. And these are the creators of the pond or the pool, and they have now been jettisoned as a result of certain actors playing to satisfy their whims and caprices. And I think that fundamentally what is key and what is maybe a takeaway to this is that the MPP must begin to sit up and reflect and know that if we allow some few people to hijack the party, it will come to the point where those who matter will not be available to give their best of advice or strategies to help the party to recalibrate and move forward.
See, now I appreciate you for this, and this is a matter that we're going to have an extensive conversation on Ghana Tonight on TV3, so we'll connect with you again on this. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Professor Samuel Edudjemfi, is a professor of political science at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So live here on Hot Edition. We're back shortly after this quick break. Bismarck Awusa is standing by with the latest in the world of business.
Hello, Hello, Ghana. It's a new year and Bills Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bills offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bills makes it happen. Call Bills Microcredit today. Call 0596 920 833 or 0302 200 390 and get started. Bills is licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. Coming up tonight, Bank of Ghana tightens oversight on 5 banks falling behind recapitalization targets despite sector-wide gains. Post-debt exchange program will bring you details. Thanks for your company. Now to the detail. The Bank of Ghana has intensified its monitoring and enforcement actions on 5 banks, both private and state-owned, that have fallen behind their recapitalization schedules, even as most of the sector rebounds strongly from the effects of the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, DDEP. These underperforming banks face tighter scrutiny amid concerns over shareholder inaction, rising bad loans, and delayed recognition of credit losses. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details. Ghana's banking sector is showing signs of recovery after the shocks of the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, with most of the 13 affected banks having restored their capital buffers by the end of 2024. But the Bank of Ghana is flagging 5 banks comprising both private and state-owned institutions that remain materially behind on their recapitalization plans. Sources say these banks are struggling with unmet shareholder capital commitments, high levels of non-performing loans, and delayed booking of credit impairments flagged during the central bank's 2023 asset quality assessments. The central bank has ramped up supervisory pressure and corrective measures to compel full compliance by end 2025, including a return to the minimum capital adequacy ratio of 13% without regulatory reliefs. The IMF's country report reveals that some of these banks could still meet their capital targets if they secure additional injections and benefit from the World Bank-funded segment of the Ghana Financial Stability Fund, pending parliamentary approval. As part of the broader recovery plan, these institutions are revising their recapitalization roadmap with most of the 13 affected banks. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Now, the Bank of Ghana has outlined a series of events to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the cedi, which falls on July 19, 2025. The activities will start with a launch event at the Accra International Conference Center in August, themed 60 Years of the Cedi, a symbol of sovereignty, stability, and economic resilience. This will be followed by an activity in collaboration with the National Museum of Science and Technology, as well as mobile museum exhibitions. There will also be a stakeholder engagement on cash handling, currency lifestyle chart, and security features. And that brings us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Thanks for your company.
Africa and worldwide.
Here on Hot Edition on TFM 92.7. My name is Ori Kwampofo, and in just about an hour's time, the Black Queens would be involved in a must-win game against Tanzania in the final group game at the ongoing Women's Africa Cup of Nations. For Kim Las-Björkegren, his side have only picked 1 point from 2 games so far against South Africa and Mali, and anything but victory will see the Black Queens eliminated from the competition. Just to get ourselves ready for the game tonight, my colleague Akusia J is currently stationed at the Berkane Stadium where the match will be taking place and helps us understand what's at stake tonight for the Black Queens.
Points each in Group C. Tanzania and Ghana are going into the final round of match to grab all the possible points to possibly end up as one of the third-ranked teams to move into the next stage of the competition. Coach Kim Las-Björkegren and Chantel Boy Holoka has been speaking to the media, and they have shown so much optimism, understanding the importance of the final game.
We're having a good feeling. Of course, we worked hard for the 3 points in the previous game, so we were a little bit disappointed with just 1 point. We think that we deserved more, but in the end of the day, the most important were probably to get at least 1 point. Now we have everything in our own hands, and to make sure to win the game tomorrow.
I think as players, I'm echoing the same as the coach. I think throughout the whole camp, throughout the whole team, we have the positivity, we believe in ourselves, we know we've got the quality, we just got to go out and show it.
Coach Kim also mentioned about the absence of Doris Bojua and what it presents to the team. According to him, he is not under any form of pressure because he has players like Princella Adubia and even Chantel Holoka to be in that position.
We have one player to the left here, but we have also other players like Adubia is one person that have played there, for example, but we have many more like Alice Kusi, for example. So there are good options, even if we always gonna miss Doris as well.
Also, Coach Kim Las-Björkegren has reiterated the fact that he is not under any form of pressure and believes in his team to be able to get the necessary points against Tanzania to move to the next stage of the competition. From Berkane Stadium here in Berkane, my name is Akusia AJ for TV3.
And so that was Akusia on the report there. But before we go, I remember that you can get updates on the Black Queens game on our social media handles at 3sportsgh. But there's also updates from Chelsea's camp as well, because after winning the Club World Cup against Paris Saint-Germain, captain of the side, Reece James, has set aside on the English Premier League and the Champions League after their victory. James revealed in a post-match interview that the club will be hoping to build on their recent success in the upcoming season.
Moving in the right direction, winning this trophy against such good opposition sends a big statement, and I'm happy with how much the club has progressed, and I hope next season, we're competing in the Premier League, to win the title, and competing, to go far in the Champions League as well.
Well, that's the note on which we wrap up the sports segment here on Hot Edition on TFM 92.7. My name is Ori Kwampofo.
Thank you for staying with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Christabel Success Trevor. I've been doing this with Alfred Ocansey. Have a good evening.